in from 8 to 10. It is a program designed to lift you, helping you to be better, not bitter, helping you to live in the positive, inspiring, uplifting, and impactful. Get Empowered covers topics and real-life situations that are often not discussed. Get Empowered will seek to help you find a reason, not an excuse. Get Empowered provides laughter and encouragement with positive interaction. You can also join the conversation. No subject is too heavy for the team and knowledgeable guests. Relevant, practical, and to the point. That's Get Empowered on the Nation Station every Tuesday evening from 8 to 10. Live in the positive on Get Empowered.
Living in the positive.
For news, views, interviews, special events, music and entertainment, sad occasions, joyous moments, the events that shape our lives in Dominica, around the region and around the world. Listen to DBS Radio. Experience and professionalism. Your number one station.
Well, good evening, Dominica. Good evening to you out there, you lovely people out there. Good evening to you. Let me do this. All right. Good evening to all of you lovely people out there. It is so good to be tuned in tonight. It's Get Empowered tonight, and my name is Michael Jajak, and I'm happy to be here to be your host. I'm advertising a foreign country, I suspect. I better get a ticket to go to that country. Why? Oh, I have that on me there. But it's kind of cool, you know. Here is nice and cool, so I guess I got to just, keep myself nice. But good to have you people out there, and all of you lovely people. As I said, we have guests. And as you would notice, we are going to be dealing tonight with just something that is always relevant. It is always relevant. We're going to be doing something that's always relevant in that sense. And we're going to be just dealing with the job interview. And I have with me a guest, and she's no stranger to the studio of DBS Radio. She like being in studio. That's one guest that like being in. I wish, my guests, well, I guess she's not only a guest, but I'll tell you more about her as we roll along. And she likes the idea, so she might just maybe join me along the road to be a co-host. Yeah, so, and that kind of thing. I need all the help I can. So she will just be with me in that. But as you could see, we have this happening with her. And so that's going to be happening tonight as we get through with the program. So I didn't get a bio from her or any kind of script because she's such a simple woman. But I'm going to ask her to, to introduce herself. And I go to, let me see. I go to this and I say, good evening to you, Hannah. Let me just get your microphone on. Good evening to you.
Good evening to you, Pastor, and good evening to the listening public.
And how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
You're doing fine? Fine like a good wine or something, or just fine? You drink at all? No, you drink wine?
Just a little.
Oh, just a little. All right, not social, not comfort drinking. You just drink just a little.
Just a little.
All right, so good to have you in studio. It's like I said, it's your third time in studio. First time with all of these, and things happening like they say, camera, light, action. You know what I mean? So that's the first time with all of that happening. But it's just a pleasure to have you. And how was your day, by the way?
It was kind of busy, but it was good.
Kind of busy, but good. Your work is a demanding one, I suspect. And it keeps you busy. So that's wonderful. If there's one thing you would tell you'd like someone to know about you, what would that be?
I'm a calm individual and I take everything one day at a time.
You're calm and you take everything one day at a time. All right, so that's wonderful, and you are HR kind of HR assistant, HR assistant. So you're into HR and stuff like that. And how did you come about maybe determining a career path? What got into as we just get a little light conversation going? How did you determine on a career path?
Okay, so when I was younger, just starting probably high school, I wanted to be a teacher. Okay. But encountering issues with my throat, I realized that the constant talking, it could not work for me. So at that point, I wasn't sure after a while what I wanted to be. So at high school, I studied business. And my first job, I was a secretary, which I worked at the village council as a clerk, and I did that for 7 years. Subsequent to that, it had always been my dream.
What village, by the way?
It's Woodfordale.
Oh, Woodfordale. Okay.
Woodfordale. It had always been my dream, though, to work either at the electric company or on the port.
Electric company.
Oh, on the port.
As a lines person, or
no.
just a climbing pole, or
no. Just an admin person.
Admin, okay.
Oh, on the port.
On the port, okay.
I applied to the both areas and was called at the electric company. So I am at Domlec and have been there for over 15 years.
Oh, wonderful. And I guess you like it.
Yes, I do.
The power to serve you better.
Yes.
All right, and I guess currently there is all this talk about geothermal and dumb all of these challenges. I guess but it's a teething process, and we're hoping that all the good things we hear will come to pass, and all of us citizens will benefit. All right, so you have been at Domlec for the past 15 years. All of that in HR? Or?
No, I studied as a general clerk in the engineering, transmission, distribution department. While being there, I realized that, at the village council and then moving on to Domlec, I realized that I am good with people, very good with people, good with interacting with persons, remembering their names and stuff like that. And I realized, okay, I think HR is it. So about 20, when I was about 23, 24, I realized that, okay, HR. And I pursued my studies later on in HR, and here I am today.
Wonderful. And I guess you graduated from UWI a couple of years ago.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. And I saw a lot of people getting excited over that. It's always an exciting thing, so that's the journey. And but we're here tonight to just deal with what would be important in life's journey, in everybody's life journey. And when I think of what we're going to be just conversing around, having a conversation about, I think it's not just something that is for school leavers, when persons are just leaving school. I think, that it's an ongoing process with us. Once you want to change jobs, you want to shift careers, you want to, something else is attractive, you look at the television or you read the newspaper or you hear on the radio there's an opening somewhere, you got to gear yourself for that. You got to get yourself for an interview. You got to get yourself for that. So there is a relevance about our discussion tonight, don't you think?
Yes.
All right. So there's a relevance, and you are going to help us. You're not here representing Domlec. Let me just let people know that. So don't call with Domlec related questions. Don't call with any vacancy situation with Domlec. She's not there representing Domlec. She's here, as a citizen of the country who wants to make a contribution in empowering somebody, in empowering others. All right. So she's my guest tonight, and she will not. So Domlec, you have to get, anybody with Domlec, you don't have to feel any kind of way. And anybody you want to say hi to before we get rolling? Anybody you want to say hi to?
Well, I want to say hi to my brother who is listening, my sister who is listening, and all my other friends and my support system who are listening at the moment.
They're not just listening; they're looking at you.
Yeah.
So I guess don't worry about them. All right. Let me just say this. All right. The thing about it is, you behave like it's just you there, and you're sitting in your living room, you're having a conversation. If you begin to think of all the other stuff, that kind of and them and maybe what they will say, and all of that. Yeah. Just you say hi to them, right? You want to call their names?
Oh no, they know themselves.
All right. So family, hi. All right. And if only sending a message on her phone, just make it nice and thing. All right. By the way, as we get into conversation, you would see the number on the screen that you can. Let me just drop this up. Is it on this one? Yeah. So the numbers are, let me just let you know, the numbers are 1-800-327, 1-800-327 or 448-3284, 448-328, no, not 3284, but 3281, 448-3281, 448-3279, and also we are at on the international thing, it's 305-432-9744. You could always drop me a message on WhatsApp. I will be able to check that out. If you have questions, comments, and all of that, you could always drop that in, and I will entertain that questions. And I hope to put myself on Facebook shortly, all right, so I can monitor what's happening with that in a while, so I can actually see if you are dropping any comments. All right, so that's going to be our conversation tonight. All right, so Hannah, we want to really start as we look at the job interview. All right, and would you say that there are different types of interviews? There are different types. When you come to an interview, is there just one type? You ask questions and, okay, all right, with the interviewer just ask questions, or are there different types of interview that person should bear in mind when they prepare for job interview?
Okay, yes, there are different types of interviews. There are, for example, screening interviews, the structured interview. There are stress interviews, targeted interviews, or group interviews. For the screening interview, it would be a preliminary interview in either person or by the phone, where a company representative would determine whether an individual has a basic qualification to warrant a subsequent interview.
Okay. Keep going.
Okay, so the structured interview is the one that we use most commonly, where the interviewer explores predetermined areas using questions which have been written in advance. The interviewer has a written description of the experience, skills, and personality traits of an ideal candidate. The experience, skills of the candidate is compared to the specific job tasks. And this interview, like I said, is the most common, and most traditional interviews are based on that format. So we know that, okay, we see an advert, and then when we apply, then we are selected for the interview, or an individual is selected for the interview. And when they come in, they expect that the interviewer is going to ask them questions pertaining to the specific job that was being advertised. And
I guess coupled with their skills, yes, and their skill set, personality, and all of that stuff.
Yes.
What about them?
Yes.
That would be important. Let me. Okay, so then that's what you call the structure interview.
Yes.
All right. So it is pretty much, as the word says, structured. And then you talk about, but before that, you had the screening, where the screening would be done if you want to, you just throw it out, like you throw a net out, and you just have a catch, everybody thing, and you go through that preliminary stuff of just looking at who is now going to go to the structured interview. So a lot of people some persons could be eliminated right in the screening process.
Right there.
All right, and then the structured interview. And then you mentioned an unstructured or the unstructured interview. So structured and unstructured, why is it? Is it that it goes all over the place? Just flow like a conversation. I'm looking at the word unstructured. Yeah.
Okay, so the unstructured interview, it takes a format as, although the interviewer is given a written description of the ideal candidate, in the unstructured interview, the interviewer is not given instructions on what specific area to cover, so they'll just be asking different questions to the candidate. So it's not like questions that the candidate would, like that you just expect that they would ask you X, Y, Z. They would ask you different questions to determine whether you'll be suitable.
Right. So that question could be either job related directly to the job, or attitudinal thing. Look at the attitude, look at responses, look at fluency, look at all of that. So that's what you're saying in the unstructured. It could take any direction, or would it be unstructured but specific in to the job? Or is it unstructured but maybe look at personality, look at attitude, look at all of the other areas?
It will look at the individual on a whole, in terms of not just qualification, not just skills. Like you say, attitude, stuff like that. That would help the interviewer to know that the person may be the correct candidate or the correct fit for the position. Okay.
All right. Good. So then you have, after that, you have the multiple interviews. That sounds like one person could be interviewed a number of times?
Yes. So for specific positions, there are different. The interview process involves a series of interviews. Whereas sometimes at the first interview, you may come in and the interviewer may ask you questions determining your qualification, your skills, your knowledge. And then when they look at all this, they select so if you would have let's say about 5 candidates for that interview, at the end you only want one person. So during that interview, you would probably extract about the best 3. By determining their skills, their qualification, to see if they are suited for the position. After that, then they are taken to another interview where other questions, more job-related questions are asked, where also they are sometimes asked to demonstrate their skill based on the position that they are applying for.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So you could actually come to an interview and be asked to show off, to show something, show your competency, as it relates to the job.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. That's kind of cool. All right. So then, but that would be again based on the position, based on the on the job that's offered. You won't have that for anything. So if somebody want to be a clerk, for example, you may not necessarily go through all of that.
You may not.
For a clerk.
You may
based
not.
On the position.
You may not.
All right. So it would be more a career kind of position.
Right. So if in case, for example, if you are going, for example, for a public relations officer, they may ask you to design a portfolio.
Oh, okay.
Yes, something like a newsletter or something like that to demonstrate your skill, to see how competent you are in that department.
All right, to show off on the social media thing and
yes,
and that kind of stuff. Well, I failed that one, that kind of stuff. Yeah, yes, that type of thing. We would. I'll come to that question later, but then you have. I found this one interesting when as I looked at some of the things you sent me. I found this one, the stress interview, and I just found it interesting based on the wording. It's almost like in a stress interview, someone is could be placed under pressure to see how they respond under pressure.
Yeah.
Is it? But you don't come to an interview with, and I'm just trying to, because we're helping persons for the interview. You don't come to an interview and they say, all right, today is going to be a stress interview.
No.
You don't get that information.
No.
But the interviewer and the panel or whoever it is, or the company or the organization or whoever it is, will put in some things there for that purpose.
Yes.
So everyone listening to me should be aware of that. When you go to an interview, there's what that is called of a stress interview. That is not given to you. Hey, look, you're gonna have a stress interview. Tell us about the stress interview.
Okay, so the stress interview.
Or should we say the stress a component where you are put in a place to test your responses and how you operate under pressure? Because I find a stress interview, I don't know, but that's how it is termed. So tell us about it.
Okay, so sometimes even in a structured interview, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are questions there that are placed there to determine how you handle stress, how you handle working under pressure. So there would be questions that are formulated in relations to the job, and you would be asked, how would you perform if X, if Y, if Z? So let me see if I can give an example. So for example, you came in for interview to be a cashier. So you would be asked, an example of a stress question would be, you are cashing for a irate customer. You give the customer their bill balance, however they are not satisfied, and the customer refuses to pay the bill, but they are demanding further explanation, although you have explained to them already. You've given them a breakdown of their bill. So you've explained to them already, and they are demanding further clarification and do not want to pay. That customer is becoming noisy and very noisy, and they do not want to listen. How do you deal with this? They would ask you something like that. So that would be like a stress question in the interview, in the structured interview, pertaining to the position of cashier.
But I'm thinking when you bring that though, it is asking you how you'd respond. It's easy now to give an answer. I'm thinking with a stress interview or that aspect of it, you may want to throw something at making the person uneasy, or trying to provoke them to be uneasy. Or provoke them to behave in a kind of way. I'm just thinking, I'm not saying, I don't know if that is fair to take into an interview where someone is coming to a job, if you understand what I'm saying, because you want to see answering a question about how you would behave if a customer, acts in a certain way, and being put in the position where you have to demonstrate it is different. Because we can always answer right, but then under pressure, it's a different story. So when I hear of the stress aspect of the interview, I was thinking more in terms of we're going to put some pressure on you to see how you're going to behave. Okay,
so what I explained earlier was a stress question as part of the structured interview.
Uh-huh.
Now, yes, at the stress interview, the interviewer intentionally attempts to upset you to see how you would react under pressure. So they would not give you questions per se, but they would give you questions, but they would do other stuff, interrupt you while you speak in, so that they would see how you would deal with that on a normal day basis, if that would happen on your job.
Oh, okay, all right. Now I'm getting it. So it would be intentional in terms of what we do. What is done to test you, okay? And but again, as we interact and as you listen, you are not told that that's going to happen. It's just that it happens. But everyone should be mindful of that. But it won't be something that will happen for every interview, though.
No.
Oh, okay.
You may get job related questions to test your whole manner under stress. You would get that, but not like deliberately interrupting while you're speaking and doing such. No, not in every interview. No.
Okay, all right, but you will get that kind of stuff. All right, so that's wonderful. So far, you have the screening interview, the structured interview, the unstructured interview, multiple interviews, the stress interview, and then you're talking also about the targeted interview.
Okay, so the targeted interview, the areas that are covered during while that interview is taking place, they are more limited. They are specific to the job, and key qualifications for the success of the job are identified, and the relevant questions are being prepared in advance. So it will not go all over the place like the unstructured interview.
Okay. All right, cool. And then what else you have?
Okay, you have the group interview as well, where you may be interviewed by 2 or more company representatives simultaneously. Sometimes one of the interviewers is designed to ask stress questions to see how you respond under pressure. A variation of this format is for 2 or more company representatives to interview a group of candidates at the same time.
Okay. All right. So then that is the type of interview. All right. So persons coming into going through, a job would have to bear that in mind. But there are varied types of interviews that they got exposed to. Then you have, we have before the interview, but can someone fail an interview even before it starts? Do you feel someone can fail an interview before it starts?
Can they?
Yeah.
Even before it starts?
Mm-hmm.
It's based on how prepared the person are, or it's based on what they feel to do. So probably that way they could.
So as HR, I'm not asking you to specifically say, well, I have done that to someone, but you've prepared your room, you've prepared, the thing, your sitting is all of that, and you have a 9 o'clock appointment. The person shows up at 10 to 9, which is on time, but then they walk into that room, and then it's like the way they come in, maybe where they walk, the way they attitude, the way they dress, the kind of stuff. I guess you have to be non-judgmental as someone interviewing someone, right?
Correct.
You can't just judge some stuff like that, because somebody could have a bad hair day. All right, but then they come in a way that it's like, you just feel clothes is not, and this is, kind of stuff like that. And that's what I'm saying. If it's possible for just on the appearance or the presentation or just, the entrance of that person, that can signal something that, they're not ready yet.
You still have to continue the interview. You don't just look at the person like as they step in and just say like, you know what, no, we're not doing that interview. You still have to continue the interview, and you try your best to be as neutral as possible and try to keep your facial expression in check.
Okay, and I understand that. I understand that, and that's perfect. That and I'm not saying you don't do the interview, but then being human, could you not specific to you, but just general? If you feel, could someone just, because of what they saw early, just have that type of thing? I mean, I'm going through the process, but jamais, Paula, not you.
Okay, remember on the interview, there's an interview score sheet where there are different criteria that are placed.
Okay.
So dress could be a criteria, knowledge, qualification, critical thinking. So there are different sections. So you would grade accordingly. And at the end of the interview, you would have a discussion with your panel. And then you would bring up, like, the panel would bring up the different areas or the different areas where the person would be, where they would top or where they would lack. So at that time, then you could, based on the points and so forth, you can. But you can't just look at somebody from, like, as they step in and just close up your mind to them. No, you have to have an open mind and conduct the interview.
But then you mentioned the fact of a panel.
Yes.
I've seen situations where you have solo, one person doing an interview. That's not recommended, right?
I cannot say it's not recommended, Because look at we had the different types of interviews. What about when you have let me give you the example, when you have the screening interview. What if it's one person who does the screening? Because remember, you screening and then the person has to now move on to probably the structured interview. So sometimes it may be just one person screening, so I cannot say that it is not right. No, I can't say that.
But the screening process is such a critical process. I mean, it's not going through the whole interview. It's a critical process, and one can screen with a bias. One can screen, So I'm just looking at the whole process because I just feel one person doing an interview for a job, it's where that person could have such a bias towards another person. But you said most times it is done by a committee of persons.
Yes, a panel.
A panel.
Yes.
All right. Shouldn't the screening be also done by a panel?
Well, it's based on what the
company wants.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I should say. I best I say that.
All right. But then also you can screen for just reading the application.
That too.
All right. So you have a panel, you just read, and if I think they said if you don't meet the criteria, you won't be
you won't be shortlisted.
You won't be shortlisted. All right. So that happens. All right. Wonderful. So let's look at what you would have before the interview. What happened? How you make a call, or you have letters come in, or happen? People get a call, or But before you go there, the whole put on file kind of story. That is so frustrating. People write people and then they put on file. Are you smiling for that, Patrick? People put people on file. But file tell me go. The file so big, the file like Monja bloated, so big. You're not sure if you're at the top, the middle, the bottom. You're in the lake, in the middle of that kind of stuff. But that put on file kind of story. Do you all ever go back to files?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Boy, because I know some people
all the time, very often we do. We do go back.
In your company, you go on files. So all right. So people out there, if you have applied for a job someplace, I'm not saying specifically to where she works, but someplace, and you are placed on file, the chances are they may go back to the file. So I pray right now that if you are anywhere on a file, that your particular file moves from the bottom or the middle to the top. All right. So how does that process go, though?
Put on file?
On the put on file. In terms of going back to it, do you now file according to it the years? Somebody up years. All right, 19, and then at some time do you just eliminate some things and say, all right, maybe that person have moved on, that person whatever it is, we're not even going that, and it's time to just really put that file in the lake.
Okay, so you have persons just randomly applying to a firm for employment in a certain area or for a certain position. If there are no vacancies at that time, then the person's application is put on file. It is put on file, and it's there, and the person is responded to. So you respond to the person and you let them know that you've received the application, you have no vacancies in that area, and the application is placed on file. Sometimes when a probably short-term or vacancy arise, and based on the number of sometimes based on the applications that you receive, in terms of not many, in terms of if persons are not what you receive, they are not qualified for the position, or you go back to your file and you look to see persons who had previously applied. You reach out to these people, you find out whether they are still interested, if they are employed or not. So yes, you go back to the file.
All right, good. That's good to know, because I tell you, right now I'm comfortable in my life. I'm thankful for God's grace and mercy over my years. But Papa Boje, I was put on file before. I was put on file. If you go in your at Domlek now, if you go in Domlek file, you'll see video. You might see in my life, Kasa, my look put on file. And in those days, boy, you used to get that put on file. Put on file. When you park, jamais came up to today. So,
wow.
Up to today, so my whole thing go to the lake now. But I'm not in. All of you who had me on file, you could go to your files, take off my name and put it. You can put it somewhere else. I'm no longer interested. So I'm removing myself from the file. But I guess that used to happen in the days. All right. Thanks for the laugh. All right. Okay, good. So hope for you, my friends who are on file, but if you are like me, Papa, bagay, who fini batwila. But we're hoping that things happen and kind of help you. All right, so let's look at, let's go before the interview. All right, so you've sent in your application and you're not placed on file, but you are called. Is it call? You call most times, or you write to someone? You call.
You call. You write. You email. You try your best to reach the person by any form of communication available, because you like to give them enough time prior to the interview so they can prepare.
Okay. And sometimes how long that time is? A week notice, couple of days notice?
A week or two.
Oh, okay. You give them sufficient time
so they can prepare.
And what would preparation be like?
Preparation would include.
How would you encourage somebody to prepare after you got a call?
Okay, so after you get the call, you research. You try to find information about the company that you applied to, the job, the duties. Because remember, okay, so when the advert is placed on the media, there are special skills, abilities that are listed there.
Okay.
So it will give you an idea of the roles that you would have to perform if you become successful at getting the job. So you would have to research a little more about the role, about the company which you intend to work for. Then you look at yourself, you look at your qualifications, your skills, you assess your interviewing skills. What are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and you work on coordinating your weaknesses, such as if you know that you get nervous, you speak quickly, you speak too loudly or too softly, or you having issues when it comes to being calm. You try to work on this.
Okay.
Working on this, you can have someone to assist you and do a role play of an interview with you. That person would ask you questions that may be that you think that would most likely come up in the interview. You could also use, if you haven't got anyone, you could use a mirror or a camera when you're doing your role play. So when you do that with somebody, or the camera or the mirror, it would show you where you are going wrong in terms of if you're not maintaining eye contact, if you are speaking too quickly, if you are jittery, if you are nervous, so it will be able to assist you. You would learn questions that are commonly asked relating to the job, and you would prepare your answers for them. There are some questions that just must come up at an interview. Tell me about yourself. So you try to prepare what you would like to say about yourself. You would like to give as much information as possible about yourself, but not boring the person and not going into too much irrelevant details. Okay. So you would try to stick to what is relevant at the moment to the position that you are applying for. But it isn't, I guess, in that, because I had a job interview, interestingly, 2 weeks ago. Oh,
ready
really?
for a position, thinking about it.
Oh, really?
I wasn't on file. Yeah, just thinking about it 2 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
I actually had an interview, and it was that question was the first one. They asked me, tell me about yourself. And and then they asked some very interesting question. I was just thinking about it. So I actually went through that 2 weeks ago. Now, don't ask me what job. Some of you nosy what job I apply for. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but I had a job interview actually, to a position interview 2 weeks ago, and I must confess, I was successful, so I got through. Yeah, that's kind of cool. But in terms of the answering the question, do you think that one thing I've said to people, not that I'm an HR person, but learn to answer the question that you ask.
True.
Especially about yourself.
True.
Don't volunteer information. Is that something you'd say to people? If it's not asked, don't just volunteer.
I would say give responses that are specific to the position or what you ask. So if they ask you, so you came in and you applied for, let's say, a secretarial position, and they will tell them about yourself. If you know that you have been a secretary before for X amount of years, that would be a good thing to see, because it would add to showing your competence as being a secretary.
Okay.
But if things that are not relevant, you should not go all over the place.
But you know, I wash my clothes every Friday afternoon.
It's not relevant to the interview or the position that you are going to.
All right. And so there's just some things you just leave.
You leave out
if you're not asked. All right.
Right. So that is why it is important to practice.
Okay.
And put something like a script in place as to what you are really going to say.
All right. Okay, sorry about that. But it's been provoked by some family members.
Okay.
Yeah.
So moving along,
Yes.
after you check your weaknesses, you check out you try to improve yourself based on your speech pattern, your facial expression, your whole composure during the interview. After you think about the questions that you may be asked, then you think about your overall appearance. So you don't just, like you were saying previously, what if somebody enters into an interview and because of how they are dressed, then so you don't just show up. You look for appropriate attire. You ensure that your clothes are pressed, they are clean, you smell good, you look the part. You make sure that your shoes are shined, are polished. So when you come, you give a first impression, because first impressions are lasting ones.
Okay. Wonderful. All right. First impressions are lasting impressions. So your the nails, the thing. Do you think people can overdress or underdress?
Yes, they can. Yes, some people can, and sometimes the attire is just not appropriate for. Yes. Right. So for ladies, you have to be careful. You do not have cleavage showing. Your cleavage showing. You do not go to an interview in sleeveless or very tight clothing, short clothing, or let's say clothing with slits that are high. You try your best to dress as modestly as you can, especially based on the position that you are applying for. For the men, you try to have your shirt into your pants, your hair neatly combed. There are some positions which don't allow men to have earrings and so forth. So for those, you try to stay away from having piercings or earrings, in your body, because I can't just say yes, because people have it in their nose as well. There was a time before too, though, when persons are not allowed to have locks. Do you know that?
Yeah, I'm aware. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But now it is much more acceptable. It's just that your hair needs to be neat. Okay. So for the men, you have your shirt into your pants. You don't go based on the position that you're applying for. You don't go with a jeans, and you try not to wear vests and stuff like that. So you have to be attired neatly and professionally for the position.
Okay. All right. So all of that is happening, but let me jump the gun, because you're HR. So we're looking at now interview, but you're looking at HR, because part of HR is to look at the continuity of that person you follow them through their employment. So you now have to monitor dress code, monitor certain things along the way. You call, people could be called in if they're not following the codes of the company or the workplace. What would cause this shift? And I'm going after this question will come back. What will cause the shift though from that type of strict discipline in terms of how you look when you come for the job to now persons being cleavage showing, this happening, that happening, that kind of stuff? Is it the familiarity? Is it that, well, I'm there now, I can do what I want? Because we see some things and we particularly ask, man, is the work the person going? Why they,
Complacency? Maybe.
Right.
Maybe. And then sometimes too, lack of certain policies in the workplace. So some companies you have, or some place of work you have dress code policy. Some places they tend to don't really have these or don't enforce this. So if you don't enforce it, then the employee may feel like they can come in to work dressed anyhow with their cleavage or so forth.
Okay.
But if you have policies governing it, then based on the policies, then there are steps that HR can take. You can speak to that employee, send that employee home to have their clothes changed and wear something appropriate for work. You can take disciplinary action against them.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so if you're just tuning in now, it's Get Empowered. It's Tuesday, it's the 23rd day of June. And tonight I have as guest Hannah Lawrence, and we are looking at having a conversation around job interview, and we see the relevance of it. We know it's school, end of school in that sense for a lot of persons, so persons are moving on. Today we heard on the radio that there'll be 350 graduates from the state college. Some already have maybe employed, but some persons will be now searching for a job and having to go through that process. And then we have school leavers who may not go to the college or just go straight into the work, So we're just preparing folks for that. We also have, I know parents are listening, so you can take notes to help your son, your daughter, your niece, your nephew with the whole process. And we also, in that sense, not limiting it just to school leavers, we also have persons who along the way are moving into other things. They move, they hear, so and so have a vacancy and they want to try their hand at it. So we're just preparing you in that conversation tonight with Hannah on that, getting ready for a job interview. All you need to know. All right, and Hannah is my guest, and we've kind of had a joke about it. Somebody, Hannah, put on thing, last week that on file there, people. And one person on Facebook, they put troublesome. They say, I'm a nail file, I guess, and all what they say. Okay, so on file, hallelujah, persons are having their fun with the on file kind of thing. But on a serious note, we are, in that sense, just encouraging persons. So we are at the point in the conversation where we are looking at before the interview. So we have covered, just looking at yourself in the mirror, talk to yourself if you don't have somebody to help you along the process, and get familiar with what the company is all about, and know what you're about. And we talk about the clothing, beneath your hair. You're doing some research of the company, and I see something where it says about having extra copies of the resume. Is that always necessary, or?
Okay, so well, we didn't get there yet.
Okay.
As in terms of when you get to the. So you have to arrive.
We're looking, okay.
So you should try to arrive at least 10 to 15 minutes earlier than your scheduled time for the interview, so that you can calm yourself, check your surroundings. If you need to use the bathroom, to probably proper up yourself, just to work on your appearance and to keep your whole body, your whole everything in check. So you try to arrive at least 10 to 15 minutes earlier to the interview. You also work with copies of your qualifications. So if in case and you need to have your original copies as well. So you work with them so that if you are being asked to present them, then you just have them like here it is rather than where it is.
Okay.
So yes.
The interview process, though, because we're looking at the whole prep to that, I think, would you recommend, I guess it's maybe part of what's happening at schools now, more and more, that, because I mean, way back at school, you went through this little preparation, you went through this little thing for the job world. In terms of that, the nervous moment, I cannot say that I was always, an outgoing person. I'm still shy in some ways. It's some things, I have to do. But I'm still in some ways shy. So there's certain things that make me nervous. The nerve part could be something else. Some persons, how do you deal with someone in the process that you see, wow, that person, is very nervous. That person, you look at their skills, you look at what they have said, what their resume is suggesting, you understand something about even their experience, but in the moment they are, they're nervous.
Yes.
How do you, as HR, deal with people like that?
Okay, so when the interviewee comes in, there are some people who are really, really, really nervous.
Okay.
Sometimes you know the person on a general basis out of that interview room, and that person is an outgoing person, a very like extroverted person. But when they come to the interview, then you see them, they're shaking. They just can't keep their composure. So what you do is you try to calm them. You invite them to have a seat. You engage in small talk. You offer them some water and you ask them to be calm. You give them you introduce yourself. So during that time, you're trying for them to, just calm down. You ask them like just small talk questions, general questions, like maybe about the weather, maybe about how their day going so far, just trying to calm them. And then you allow them time. You tell them that, okay, there's no need to be nervous. You explain the interview process, what the interview what the interview entails.
Uh-huh.
You explain that to them. So all that you're doing, that is an effort for them to be calm. Then you give them some time, and when you finish with all this, you tell them that when they are ready, then you're ready to proceed.
Okay, so you could actually give them a break, because that
Yes.
process could be intimidating.
It can. It is.
Well, it is intimidating. Let me not say it can be. It is intimidating.
It is.
I mean, like I did mention, I had an interview 2 weeks ago, I think, for a position, and the panel, it was a panel of 3. And stuff like that. And you go through that, and it could really be, intimidating. And it's like, man, the questions, you're not sure what they're going to ask you, what angle they're going to do, how they think of you, and stuff like that.
It is.
So it is. And is this something that could be done to make it less intimidating?
I don't know. I think, okay, so for me, if I can give my personal experience, I don't like interviews. I don't. For me, based on my experience, when I have been to interviews, I see that the panel try their best to make me calm. But I think is while going along dialogue, then that's when I really calm down. I really get more comfortable to be able to explain myself and to speak. I remember one time at an interview, right? I was asked a particular question, like how would you react if you were given a task that you didn't like? So I said, well, if I was given the task that I didn't like, I would still do the task, because I'm being paid to do that task. Even if I don't like it, I will try my best to do it to the best of my ability. And then I was asked, what would you say in your head if you were given that task? And I was like, what would I say in my head? That one caught me off guard. That
Right.
question caught me off guard. So
Yeah, because you're actually processing some things along the way as you're here. They are asking you, but you're also processing some things.
Right.
But so they were asking you, what are you thinking?
yes, if I was given that task, if I was given the task that I didn't like, even if I would be doing it, what would I be thinking?
Yeah, but would it be rude then in that thing to say, well, that would be my fault?
Well, they ask, what would you be thinking? So I think that the best thing, what I did was said exactly what I would have been thinking, which was, it is my duty, as much as I do not like that task, I have to do it to the best of my ability and complete it within the time frame that I am given to complete it. That was what would go on in my head.
But what if going on in your head would be, boy, I hope them people not going to ask me to do that all the time, because I myself there,
It's a good thing it's not that was going on in my head, so I would not say that.
But would that be, because you're looking for honesty though?
Yes,
Because
you
I mean,
honesty.
the whole thing about it is that it could be a trick question, but it's also a question of, let me see how honest you are, and maybe how vulnerable you could become with that, in that whole thing. So what's going on in my head now is like, I hope all the people are going to ask me to do that all the time, because I ain't like that. And if I have to do that all the time, I'm not sure if I'll stay.
What is your duty?
It's your duty.
Yes.
It's my duty. And HR, yes. Let me go to your HR now. Define prints in the job description.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That sometimes appear as unfair. There's the fine prints, and they make them so fine. Just like some people, they don't want you to read it, but then if you're in corner and you read it, say, but it's written there. And it's like, I didn't see that small writing.
Mm-hmm.
But in job description, you have an any other thing that you may call upon to do, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
All right? That any other thing that you may call upon to do. That is maybe where, I guess, that whole thing comes up, right?
Well, for me, I cannot speak for everyone, but for me, I look at the any other duties that I may be called upon.
Mhm.
I look at it as gaining experience,
Okay.
as gaining knowledge as well in a certain area where that is not really my task, and in that way I can develop myself professionally. I can also develop myself for myself and also for the company.
Okay.
So I look at it as a plus.
All right. So whatever you call upon, it's gaining experience.
Yes, there are some times, I must say, honestly, there are sometimes that some things can be burdening and can be burdensome, and then you really wonder sometimes. But when you take a positive look at it, it helps you along the way. Because I can say that I remember when I was at the village council, there were certain things that I really felt like the any order. There was some any order, and that any order, it really used to, make you think. But then moving on from council and then being to where I am today, I saw the need for the any order. So sometimes at the moment it may be stressful, but later on in life, you get to realize that the any order, it was very much helpful for my own development and even taking me to where I am today.
All right. So the any order have been helpful.
Yes.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, if you're just tuning in now, and we have about a minute, or it's a minute to 9 o'clock on this day, Tuesday, the 23rd day of June, 2026. Yeah, my name is Michael Zishak, and I have with me guests in studio, and we're actually just dealing with empowering you in our conversation tonight on the job interview, all you need to know. And my guest is Hannah Lawrence, and Hannah is HR assistant and qualified in her field, and she's helping us through the process. And so far, I must thank you for all of the valuable thing that's coming out. So we continue the conversation, and we want to now move into the aspect of during the interview, now you've done you told us the type of interviews that one will maybe go through. We look at preparing for an interview, from anything from, your slowing down with your speech, and then how you look, and when you're nervous, what happens, and just preparation for the question. Now you are seated and stuff like that, and you are in the interview. Help us understand some things about this process, Hannah.
Okay, so before you are seated, so you are invited into the interview room.
Okay.
And like they said, that the interview begins from the time you walk into the company. So even when you
are waiting?
Yes, sometimes there may be persons strategically placed to observe you while you are waiting, observe what you're doing, and stuff like that. Sometimes there are items placed to evaluate you. What about the people on the floor when you're walking in? I've heard about this, where people were being tested that way to see like leading up to the interview table. There's something placed on the floor. Would you just walk right over it? Would you pick it up? Would you ask?
Oh, okay.
Yes. So I said that to say
you have to be mindful of your surrounding.
You have to be mindful of your surrounding.
Okay.
So when you step into the interview room, you have to wait to be invited to sit. You don't just go sit down. You have to wait to be invited to sit. When you are asked to sit, then the introductions are made, and then then you get into this place where you become calm and you are ready for the interview. Now, bear in mind that you try to there's a specific way that you're supposed to sit. You don't just go and sit and like you relaxed or you're on your couch. You try to sit.
You're large, and
you're not supposed to sit that way. So you
large corner, just chill, looking at TV.
No, you don't do that. No, so you try to sit upright. Okay. You try to sit for ladies. You try to sit with your legs placed together. Crossed. And yes, and
at the heel.
And then you maintain that professional stance where you don't slouch, but you try to lean a little forward, so to show that you listening, you're interested. You sit there, and then you are asked questions.
Do you recommend in that sense, active listening, which basically, active listening is we acknowledge, whilst people are speaking, or do you recommend total silence while the question is being asked?
Okay,
or while some conversation is happening.
While the question is being asked, you nod, you maintain eye contact, you nod.
So that I'll have to listen.
And after the question is asked, if you do not understand, you ask for clarification. You ask that the question be repeated, or you ask for some clarification before you attempt to answer the question. Because remember, you only have a few seconds to create a positive first impression, instead of you just go and just answer while they know, because remember, you are being scored. If you are evaluated, and there are points being placed for certain areas. So you try your best to answer the best way possible, and to do so you have to be able to understand what you are asked, so that you can give the best answer.
Right. So you could always ask to repeat a question,
yes.
Or you're not clear on this, or you could say, what do you can you say, ask, what do you mean by so and so? If you're being interviewed, you could ask the people interviewing you, okay, you said this, but what do you mean by you
would have to okay, so based on the question that they ask, if you find it's vague, you can ask that they clarify, so you know exactly what they're looking for. So for example, tell me about yourself. What would you like to know about me?
Okay.
Professionally, or would you like to know based on my
hobbies or what?
Exactly.
Okay. All right, that's kind of cool. But in asking though, let's backtrack and just what you said. What would you like to know about yourself? Do you recommend just generals, a little bit of hobbies, a little bit of professional, a little bit of family background? Do you recommend any of that kind of stuff, or how do you?
It's based on your position and what is relevant to the position. So, okay. You may have to give family background. So, for example, if you are to probably let's say, if you are in a position where it's gonna require you to put in a lot of overtime, like after hours, late hours, and let's say you are a new mom,
Okay.
you would have to say that at the interview, because chances are you may have to make arrangements at home
Okay.
to be able to meet the needs of home, like for your baby, and also for at work. So it would be good that they know that you're a new mom. Sometimes based on the position and based on your whole dynamics at home, it may not be suitable for you. That position you may not be able to
Okay.
pursue.
All right, wonderful. So you'd want to share that because of the position. That's great. So you don't just go pull your chair and sit down and just throw yourself on it like you
No.
pull up at home and then just take a bottle and just pour water in a glass if you see the glass there and just behave like you wait. You wait to be baited along. You're baited. You bite the bait as you go along. In that sense. All right.
Technically.
Yeah, you do that. So you follow the cues, and you get cues from them, and you wait to be seated.
They
So-
would ask you to sit.
Oh, okay. And it does. Have you seen, or could someone patient? Because the whole thing about it is the job interview is not just we having a conversation, but you're looking at attitude, you're looking at pose. You mentioned earlier about the stress interview.
Mm-hmm.
Could at that point could someone be put in a position, they're not seated yet, they just come in there to even test this stress, how they behave? I'm not saying you've done that, I'm just looking at trying to put in all the type of interviews there. But it could be a part of a stress interview where you're not saying anything, but you are delaying the person having a seat, or delaying certain things to see how they'll behave.
You can.
So-
I believe you can. I'm not sure, but I guess. And then in that position, if I'm in that position where I come in and then I'm standing, and you're just not saying anything. After a while, I will ask, "May I sit?
Okay.
May I have a seat?"
All right. Okay, so you're recommending that you ask.
I am not recommending that I'm not recommending that the person asks, but then you stand in here, the person, the interviewers are there, and you're just in that awkward position and no one's saying a word. Think about it.
That's just whether you see how you'll get caught while, like you say. In
Oh
Korea.
no.
You don't because I'm just saying that because of the stress interview part. Because you want to see how the person would behave in a certain situation. All right? And then, like you say, certain position requires that you test people differently. Okay? Mm-hmm. So, based on the position, you want to see how they will behave if they are placed where they are uncomfortable. You step into the room, some time is going by, and you have not been invited to sit. What you're looking, because they're looking at you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not invited to sit. How are you behaving? I'm just thinking, could that be just a nice way of seeing how they behave under pressure? But all right. So now you're asked to be seated and stuff like that. Let's go on with the process.
Okay, so you are asked to be seated, and then they start asking you questions. Sometimes one of the questions, like I said, that always comes up is, tell me about yourself.
Uh-huh.
And then you would start telling about yourself, maybe your age, your the different based on, okay, so if it's relevant to the position, based on your experience, the number of years you've spent in the different places of employment. Sometimes they would ask you why did you leave? Because that too can be a flag. If you keep on saying, if you said, well, okay, I've been employed at 5 different places, I only spent 1 year or probably 6 months, that is a flag. So they would ask you to expound as to what was your purpose for leaving and stuff like that. So you have to be honest at all times. You have to be honest, and you have to give information. Like I say, don't go all over the place, but give information that pertains to what you are being asked. So you are they are going to ask you a number of questions that are about you as an individual, in terms of your knowledge, your skills. They're going to ask you about your qualifications. Then questions going to go along to job-related questions, how you'd handle stress, probably confidentiality based on what position that you're applying for. Sometimes your skill set, they'll give you examples as to if you were placed in that position, what would you do, questions like that. Now, an interview is not one way. So they ask you questions and then you answer. If you're not clear, you would ask for clarifications as to what they're asking so you can give the best answer. Now, there comes a time when you too are going to be allowed to ask questions. So they would ask you if you have any questions. And that's when you ask questions relating to the job. So you would ask something like, why does the company need someone in that position? You would ask, what are the expectations of you? You would ask all the questions that you need to ask, which would give you a clearer idea as to what exactly that the job entails and what they're looking for from you.
Okay, so so they ask all of these questions. Do they ask lifestyle questions like your life, how you live in, what are your habits like, what are your, and stuff like that?
Go a little further.
I'm just asking lifestyle
questions like what?
Like maybe someone would say, do you smoke marijuana? Do you get into personal things like that? Do you do any drugs? Do you you drink? Do you have a drinking problem? Do you have anger problem? Just lifestyle question. I know they maybe ask, where do you live? What is the environment like? That kind of thing. These type of questions, do they get into that kind of stuff, or
there are some questions.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes. I'm just asking because not that maybe your private life matters. Well, it matters in some ways, but for some persons, we once you perform your job, that's important. But outside of work time, there's some people outside of work time you're supposed to maintain a certain lifestyle, a certain discipline, a certain behavior, because it can impact on you. I remember, was it last year, some guy he fired from his job because he was out somewhere with somebody that wasn't supposed to be, not in Dominica, but, it's a lifestyle. People could monitor certain things, so certain things you can't do. And that's what I'm basically asking.
Okay, so there are illegal questions as an interview. There are some questions
illegal.
Yes, there are some questions that the interviewer is not supposed to ask you, the interviewee. So some questions that would dig deeply into your personal life and so forth, they're not supposed to. Questions that are not job related, they're not supposed to ask. So again, like you just said, it's based on the position. It's based on the position, but there are some questions that you cannot ask.
So you can't ask about somebody's social life outside of the work, in that sense.
You should. That is based on the position and based on how that question goes.
Okay.
But there are some questions that you should just never ask.
Would you have one in mind that they say maybe a question you would never ask? Could you think of one? Oh. There was a time, for example, how was it? Yeah, you almost like you don't ask the question, or like maybe person's sexual orientation, say person that kind of stuff. Are you saying in that sense is that something you don't ask?
You don't ask that. You don't ask
based on the position.
You don't ask about religion.
Okay.
You don't ask those questions because some of those things do also look at as discrimination.
Okay.
So you
neither about politics.
You shouldn't ask that. But
then so many times, and I'm just throwing that out there, you don't have to respond, but so many times right, especially within institutions that are in some ways government of controlled, or either by a board or something like that, That even if they don't ask it to you, they ask it outside of you. And you could be denied the position because people do that. No, you don't have to admit to that because you're HR. So I'm just saying that. So let me take the blues for that one. All right? All right, so let me just take the blues for that one. I'm just saying you don't have to admit to that. But I'm just saying outside of the interview, there is the background check that people do. And part of the background check goes into some of that. And it's something I know because I've had people who become victim of that kind of situation where there's the background check, and sometimes the background check is religion, the background check is politics, the background check is even family and stuff like that, and how the family is connected. And based on that background check, the scores might be all right, but then when it comes to the decision makers, they move on to things. So, but like I said, that is on me all by myself. You don't have to answer that. You have to defend that. But I am not wrong. All right? I love the smile on your face. The smile on your face is something. All right, so let's move on. So you have all of that questions you should ask. All right, let's go. What else when you are now seated and you're in the interview, you say you seek clarification.
Yeah.
If you don't understand something, you have the right to ask questions.
Yes.
You're saying that the person who is being interviewed have the right to ask questions.
Yes.
All right. So that's wonderful. There is what is also called a middle phase. You have you have that. What's happening during this phase of the interview? What is that? You ask questions. You continue to ask questions.
Okay, so at the middle phase, you will be asked many questions about your work experience, the skills, education activities, and interests. You are being assessed during that phase on how you'll perform in the job in relation to the company's objectives. So you will be asked questions. Like I said, they will ask you, tell them about yourself. What is your weakest point? Like, what are your weaknesses? What are your strengths? And they will ask you, what do you hope to be doing in the next 5 years from now? Sometimes, if you have not been employed, they'll ask you, why have you not been employed for X amount of time? If you're changing jobs, they'll ask you, why did you quit your previous job, or why do you want to leave your previous job? So all these questions they will ask. After you answer these questions, then they would ask you also, what is your greatest accomplishment? They would ask you, why should they hire you? And you would have to give reasons, convincing reasons why they should hire you, or why you are the best fit for the position. Now, after this, they would ask you if you have any questions that you would like to ask. And like I said, you could ask, what are the company's current challenges? What is expected of you in your role if you were to be hired? You would ask for a more detailed job description, because remember, on the advert is just a few, or it's just a overview of the skills and duties that you are expected to perform. That would be there. So you could ask for a more detailed job description.
Okay.
You could ask, why is the position open?
Okay.
You can ask if there. A very good question to ask is whether there are opportunities for advancement, if in case you would have been selected for that position. Because what you find is, when people spend a lot of time doing the same thing over and over again, they tend to get bored, they tend to make mistakes, they tend to they get fed up, they get demotivated. So a very good question to ask is, are there opportunity for advancement? And
talking about promotion,
yes.
Is
or if there is something like, cross training, even if not promotion at the moment, but if there's something for cross training, something where you would be allowed to maybe move to another department or another section for a while, to just understand what's going on there, to kind of give you a broader view, not just what you always do, but to give you another view of what else happens in the company. And then you would like to know to whom you report and what is expected of you.
Wonderful.
So all these questions you would ask.
You're saying prepare. You could ask this question, and what are they again? You could go over some of the questions you're saying the person should ask.
You ask what is expected of you in the position.
Okay.
What are the company's current challenges? you would like to know you'd like to have a more detailed job description as to what is required of you. You can ask also, why is the position open?
Okay.
So you want to know, just a little history, a little background as to where you're getting into. You also ask, what are the opportunities for advancement? And then you would like to know who your supervisor is. You'd like to know the rank structure.
All right. So let me go back to, why is the position open? Why is this position open? If it's a situation where, from the company standpoint, the expectations are so high, all right, that persons find themselves frustrated within it, and maybe walk out of the job. And now they may not tell you that, but you might maybe have that inside information. So there is a constant turnover within a short space of time, even within that position or within that area. You think you should bring that information out if you know it?
Okay, so if there's a constant turnover in a certain position, HR, the company should do internally. They should put measures in place to improve whatever are the conditions that allows that position. Yes.
Okay.
So they would have to put measures in place. They would have to change certain things around, to make it better, to make it, more comfortable, or whatever is the problem, to solve the issue so that when the next person comes in, then it will be different. As the company, if the person asks that question, you have to try your best to be honest and professional. So you could mention that, that things are maybe not in so much details, but you could give an idea that probably it's a challenging position, but measures are in place to improve.
All right. So the honesty should be on both sides.
Yes.
Honesty in terms of you, the person that's been interviewed, and honesty on the part of the company that wants to hire you.
Yes.
In terms of that, so when you get into it, you just say, "Oh, they didn't tell me that." You understand? You want to know. But in the event that some things were overlooked, you in that sense, you say continue honest conversation if employed from the standpoint of HR. All right, you continue that kind of conversation. All right, so let's so you have gone through the introduction, introduction of yourself, the light moment, the light conversation, the calming of nerves and all of that stuff. You've gone through the middle stage where there is now, the deep questions, back and forth. You have the opportunity to ask questions. Take us. Is there a final stage or a closing phase, or what would that be? Now you're coming down to the end of the interview, and what's next there? What's happening?
Okay, so we have to remember that the interview is you trying to know as much as the objective of the interview is for you to get to know as much as you can about the company, as much as the company trying their best to get to know as much as they can about you,
all right,
to determine whether you are suitable for the position.
Wonderful.
So you should try not to leave the interview room being unclear about information that is going to be important to the position that you are going to be hired in.
Okay.
So they would ask whether you have any more questions.
Okay.
And you would try your best to ask the questions that you need to know. And some people, sometimes I remember a long time ago, they would tell you, do not ask about salary. But how not to ask about salary? You need to know what you are going to be paid or compensated.
Would that be seen as a red flag if you don't ask that kind of question?
If it will be seen as a red flag if you don't ask?
Yeah.
I don't think it will be a red flag if you don't ask, but would it be in your benefit if you do not ask? What if you are leaving one job to go to another job? How are you so sure that, financially it would be a good decision or not? So you probably may not ask, well, what is the specific salary for the position, but you could ask if they could give you a salary range, the range of the salary that's being paid for the position.
Okay.
And that, of course, they would have to answer, because that would allow you to determine whether you feel like you would be adequately compensated for the position that you are going to undertake or for the duties that you are going to perform or not. So yes, you have to ask about salaries.
Okay.
Because that's the only way you're going to know. I mean, maybe if it's your first job, probably you may not look at it as important, but it's always important to ask about salary. Maybe not what directly is the salary, but ask for a salary range.
All right, so ask. Let's talk about the money part. Money.
Yes,
All right, so you ask about the salary. Do you, a part of that, ask? Is there, like, within the bargaining agent, the bargaining thing, what type of benefit or in terms of salary increase? How does that work? Is there a union? Is there that bargaining kind of situation? You don't ask that, or you just leave it alone.
Some people, you ask about benefits for sure.
Okay.
You ask about if there are other benefits that are offered by the company.
Insurance,
like health insurance and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yes, you would ask because sometimes, especially where you work, if you leave in a job to go to another job, you would like to know if the benefits that were already given to you, if you're going to enjoy the same benefits or more benefits in the other company. All these can be determining factors as to whether you go or whether you stay in your current position or your current place of employment.
Right.
So these are questions that you would have to ask.
Wonderful. All right, cool.
Okay, so at the closing phase, like I said, they would ask you if you have any other questions to ask, and you try your best to ask the questions that would be most relevant. You don't go all over the place, but you try to ask the most relevant to you, determining whether that is somewhere that you want to be or a position that you would like to take up. And while doing so, you will try your best to be sincere and direct. You will try your best to be attentive, to be polite. You will try your best to ask the relevant questions. And when you answering questions, you try to answer concisely and use specific examples to illustrate your points. Okay. There are also don'ts during an interview. So during the interview, you don't smoke. You don't try to control the interview. There are some people, when they come to interviews, they are overconfident. Overconfidence can allow you to not get the position. When you're too confident or you want to control the interview, that is a flag.
When you say overconfident, showing, I
know everything.
Okay.
I was just like demonstrating it. You see, you didn't finish talking. I was like, I know everything.
Okay.
So that raises a flag.
I know that already. I've done that. Yeah, and and
you try not to be too overconfident. You try not to be. You try to be attentive, polite. You try to maintain, that disposition, not the one of overconfidence. You try not to be too serious, and you try not to give negative comments about your previous position, your previous job, or your previous employer. You try not to give negative because it discredits you.
I'm looking at some notes and it says don't bring up salary, benefit, or working hours. You said you bring it up, but then it says.
But you look at that. You need to know. Like I said, you don't ask for the specific. Like you will not go and say, okay. You can ask. It's based on how you ask the question. You can ask, can you give me an idea of the salary range that will be paid for that position? Okay, so you don't go comparing salaries or stuff like that.
So you won't say, all right, okay, are you giving me $500? But over by my company, I was getting $575.
No, you should not do that. And also, so you don't compare it. Working hours, you need to know your working hours. What if you have a shift system? What if you're entitled to work shift based on your family structure, your family dynamics? That you need to know that. Also, benefits, you would need to know. Like I say, so it's based on how you ask. Because if you live in a job where you have so many benefits, and then you come to another place of employment and you are not getting all these benefits, sometimes based on how it is when you look at it, you may just prefer to stay in your previous job than to come into something where you lose all the benefits that you had before.
So is it when you're going through that? Well, I guess we'll take it when we come to the conclusion. What I was going to ask, I will kind of leave that question for. I don't want to jump the gun in that. All right. So it also says you don't want to be too serious. In that sense, serious meaning your facial expression,
Even the way you bring across facial expression, yes, and even the way you bring across your questions. Like you don't want to sound like you interrogating someone and you're not satisfied with what they are saying. You try to be polite and calm. You try, because remember, you're having a discussion. You're not fighting against each other, or you're not trying to extract in that way, in that tone, information from the other person. Okay. You're having a dialogue.
But what if you find, though, in an interview that a question, you don't like a particular question? Is it something one can say, I don't think I particularly like that question?
As long as it's not, well, remember we spoke about illegal questions. If it's not a question that they're not supposed to ask, then you have to provide information. Even if you don't like the question, you have to provide information, and you still have to try to be honest and answer concisely. But
then one can say the matter of legality or not is, it's subjective. I could maybe deem a question as illegal because of how it coming across to me. I don't have that right.
Do you have an example?
I can't think of one, but I'm just thinking for the conversation. If one deems a question, as maybe illegal, or you can ask me where I live in. That is my business.
But we would need to know where you live based on proximity for work. Shift again, or based on shift, based on how if we need to call you in, that would be explained at the interview. But if we need to call you in for specific reasons, so probably we would have to explain further as to why we need that, why we're asking that question. I don't know if, okay, so for me, again, with my experience, what goes on in your head when you are given a task that you do not like? For me, that was a tough question for me, and I wasn't too comfortable. But in the end, I have to answer, and like I said, I gave an honest answer as to I look at it as broadening my scope in terms of getting more skills and stuff like that. So it's the same thing as if the person is being asked, where do they live? Probably if as the interviewer, you'd probably see that they have some form of discomfort, so you would have to explain to the person that that is relevant because of you may be required to work on shift, and let's say from midnight to 8, and we would have to arrange transportation for you. We would like to know if we would have to arrange transportation, or what other arrangements have to be made for you if you are living very far away or if you are very close.
All right, so I'm getting something here, from a listener that says where you live is a valid question. But when I was looking at I was looking about the specific. I heard someone who said they were working somewhere, and they were actually, well, where do you live, or where do you? It could have to do specific address, but the person said they were actually staying in an abandoned vehicle. But they didn't want anybody to know that they would stay. But they were working in a job that was cool enough. All right? But they were actually staying in Dominica, I'm talking about, and not somewhere else. The person was staying in an abandoned vehicle. All right? And was within a proximity of the workplace. As I'm saying, some things could be personal to you. That's, and the interviewer may not know that. So I would say, all right, I live within the Kinfield area, or I live within the Roseau area. Wouldn't that specific thing as to your address is 6735, whatever it is? No, I live within that particular area, because you might feel, that's a level of embarrassment to give the exact detail on housing.
I understand that, but remember, you will not ask, okay, so where do you live? I live in Woodford Hill. Where do you live? I live in Roseau.
Okay.
Where do you live? I live in Kenfield.
Okay.
They didn't ask you if you live. They did not ask in what structure or what structure, or if you live in a vehicle. They ask, where do you live? So you give the name of the community. That should be sufficient.
Okay, wonderful. All right, and then the listener is also saying, what is your sexual orientation is an example of an illegal question that one can choose not to answer.
Yes, because in this changing world right now, remember, we have the trans, we have those who sometimes you see them looking male there, but they're not. Well, they probably will. You probably know them as not being born male, but now the person tell you that I am male. Why would you want to insist that the person is not male? That's where you cross the line.
Okay. So they don't ask, don't tell kind of thing like that. That was kind of some
Because
in some circle. You just don't deal with.
Yeah,
it.
because the person tell you, okay, you even if you know, like, you know the person. Okay, so there are some people who change from male to female to male or male, whatever.
Yeah.
You know that person maybe from childhood or whatever, and the person comes in now with a different name. Okay, so let's say you know them as female, and now they come in with a different name, saying that they are male. You leave it as that.
Okay. And also, that's a good one. So you knew them as John Philip.
Mm-hmm.
John is the first name, Philip is the last name. But now they come in to you, and you know them because you went to school maybe to them, or you have family with them, but they come into you as Mark Doe.
Mm-hmm. Even the persons who probably change their name based on deed poll, based on a deed poll, they change their name. You accept what the person give to you. Once they show you their, you have their stuff, you had their qualifications to show. You remember prior to the interview, you have their application with everything there. Sometimes copies of the ID and everything like that. So why would you, as an interviewer, want to dig deeper when you are being presented with the information in front of you?
Okay.
So that is where it becomes illegal.
All right, and you could stop there and say, "No, I'm not answering that." Okay. What if you walk away? So I'm going to jump the gun with that question, but if you feel we need to take it up later, what if you feel okay? Because of that type of stuff, I said to you, I'm not answering that question, or you feel it's an illegal question that you're asking me, we're not going to go there, and you feel you are not given the position because of that.
As the interviewee?
Yeah.
Okay, so repeat the scenario.
I'm just saying, you ask a question, and I'm objecting to you asking me the question. All right, because I feel it's an illegal question.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And I'm denied the job because of that.
How are you so sure that you were denied the job because of that? Because remember, when you are denied the job, you get a correspondence saying that you were unsuccessful at the interview. It doesn't state the reasons why.
Yeah, okay, but then the same way you're looking at my body language, as the one being interviewed, I'm looking at your body language as the one asking me questions, and I'm responding to you.
Okay, so
and your body language could say something.
You see, that's why the interviewer has to be trained, and the interviewer has to maintain, like I was saying earlier on, that they're supposed to maintain the composure, professional composure. They're supposed to maintain their body language, that they don't show.
They sell out anything.
Right.
But
So that should not happen.
But I'm an expert, so all right. Anyhow, let's not. Okay, so but you, all right. So get it. So you that is there. You've closed up. You're now kind of moving on. Oh, by the way, folks, it's 23 minutes to 10 o'clock, and if you're just tuning in, it's Get Empowered. It's Tuesday. It's so we always do Get Empowered on a Tuesday, and my guest tonight is Hannah Lawrence. We are looking at the job interview. All you need to know. So that's what's happening, and I'm happy that you're tuned in. I'm so happy that you're tuned in. All right, and I ask you, where were you? Where are you all the time? You know, if it's your first time, but I'm happy that you tuned in. All right, so we're going to continue the conversation, and I want to really applaud Hannah. She's doing a great job. I'm learning quite a bit, and stuff like that, and she's a good teacher. Yes. So after the interview.
So you finish asking all the questions. The interview panel is done asking you all the questions. You can also ask how soon do you expect to hear from them, and they will give you a time frame, maybe 2 to 3 weeks. They will give you that time frame, and they will tell you via phone or email or so. So they will tell you that. If they don't tell you, then you can always ask that question. Now, after the interview, so at the end of it, then you thank them for interviewing you, and you proceed to leave. Now, after leaving and going to your home, you send a thank you letter or email to the to the company. So the same address that you use to apply, then you send a thank you letter telling them thank you for interviewing you.
That's interesting.
For yes.
I've never heard
For
this one.
yes, thank them for interviewing you, for allowing you the opportunity to have an interview, and you look forward to hearing from them.
And you do that, you say immediately.
Yes, you try to do it within 24 hours.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's a
Now,
cool
after this, you wait, and if you based on the time frame that they gave you, you've not heard anything, then you can always follow up with a phone call, following up to find out. You want to find out the status. You had an interview 2 weeks ago. You were told that they would have given you feedback during that specific period of time. You've not heard anything, but you call in to find out and update.
All right, okay, let's backtrack a bit. So you've gone through the process, though, and then it's like after the interview, all of that has happened, and they're ready to shake hand. They may tell you will hear from us soon,
Yeah.
or whatever it is. What if you, as the person being interviewed, decide I don't want that job? Can you now tell them? Can you think it's something you tell them, or you're saying go through the process of writing? You thank for the interview and just tell them, state it. You think it's better to state it on a letter?
You send it.
Send it on a letter, or telling them in person.
You do it in writing. You thank them for giving you the opportunity, and you say you're no longer interested in the position, maybe because you were called for, and you state the reason.
Okay.
So you give a reason. You would say probably you were called for another. You probably had a previous interview and you were selected for a job that was more in line with your career path.
Okay.
You could tell them. You state the reason why. So
you want to keep the door open.
Yes.
In that sense.
Yes.
You're not rude and just
and you just don't show up, or you just no.
Okay. You want to keep the door open.
Yes.
Because on the on file thing there, let's go back to that there.
On file.
That on file
On
there.
file.
You can if based on how you behave, you go on file and you really go in the lake this time. You don't go and file in the real pile. You go and file like they put you so deep that you can never come out. All right. So that I like that. That's a very good approach, that you take. So those of you planning to do that, all right, I feel that's just a great way to move it. You're not interested in the job, you let them know, that kind of stuff. So move on. Let's go. So what else? After the interview, you write.
Okay, you thank them, and then you follow up with a phone call.
Okay.
You could follow up with a phone call like after the time frame that they gave you, or if you didn't ask, maybe about a week or two, you have not heard anything, you could call to find out an update.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. Okay. Good. That's
now. I don't know if you don't mind me adding. For our students, like we were saying, that just graduated from high school, college, and maybe looking for a job. There are times when, not there are times, but in our lives we aspire to be certain persons, or we aspire to work in certain positions. So, for example, somebody say, "Oh, I want to be a police, I want to be a pilot, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a lawyer." Just some form of encouragement, or just something to note. While we may want to be a lawyer, a teacher, a policeman, sometimes when we just left school, we are not offered that position right away. Sometimes when we see certain things are being advertised, and we have to sometimes start there. So sometimes don't look at it as, I want to become a police, and because I want to become a police, then I will not apply if I see like there's a job at Astafans to be like a handyman.
Okay.
All experience, they are important because they help you along your career path. So to be a lawyer, you have years and years of schooling to go to, just like a doctor. Sometimes you don't have the money at the time, and you would have to work to try to raise that fund before. So sometimes you would have to settle for something much lower, right? So even if you want to be a teacher, like just out of high school, you may not be able to get that position as a teacher. You may have to go to college first. So sometimes you have to try to, no matter what it is, as long as it's legit, you try, you apply, and when you get in there, you do your best, and you be your best, and then afterwards, like sometimes you save the amount of money that you need, then you move on to following your career path. Or even there are sometimes too, when you end up applying to the other position, you end up finding yourself falling in love with that instead of what you wanted to be. Yes.
From HR standpoint, you throw out a vacancy notice, and then a part of that is years of experience. How do you work around that? What do you say to persons, who hear that, but know they can do something? And is it always maybe a fair thing to put? Someone will say, well, if I, where are you going to get the experience?
Go again. The first part of the question was...
No, I was saying the years of experience that sometimes is asked. Mm-hmm. Is it something that is necessary all the time? Or, is it to weed out certain persons from applying?
So again, it's based on the position they would ask you for years of experience. And for the positions where they ask years of experience, it would be important because remember, it's like you, based on you would not want to take somebody who does not have experience or does not know anything relating to that position and then just put them in. This may be chaotic even for you, even for the individual. It might not work out well. So years of experience is very important.
All right, wonderful. Okay, so we're doing well, and I like I said, I'm learning. So you think in terms of looking at who get hired against who isn't. Is that something that you want to take us inside and try to maybe reveal that?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, who get hired versus who does not get hired?
Yeah.
During the interview, during the interview process, after you've done the shortlisting, so the shortlisting would take place where the persons with the qualifications or most of the qualifications, the skill and the experience for the position will be selected for an interview. Mm-hmm. Now, during that interview process, during that interview itself, on the day of the interview, in addition to your qualifications and what is being placed on your CV, when you are asked questions, then the person who stands out, the person who shows that they are better equipped or the best fit for the position will be chosen versus the person who shows that they probably how do I say it? They probably lack in certain skills or qualifications in certain or experience in certain areas for the position. So yes, that's what differentiates who gets hired from who does not get hired.
Okay. Wonderful. Right, and we continue to learn. Do you? Let me see what I was asking, and just thinking earlier in terms of work. All right, you've said there's some things you don't say, there's some things you don't bring out. You don't bring across and stuff like that. Does a person at an interview have negotiating power, or you just settle with what is there for you, or is it too early to be doing that?
There are sometimes based on the advert, on the job advert, they would tell you that the salary is negotiable. That speaks for itself.
Okay. So you can then negotiate, or
that is based on if they tell you that the salary is negotiable. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
But otherwise, they are set. The salary ranges.
Yes,
they are set.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And can one maybe run into the place where they rule themselves out based on how they bargain and what they may be what they would be demanded?
Well, if I understand you clearly, if the person is asking for too much, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because then the company would say that they're not able to or to pay, that amount or offered whatever, and then the person would then say that they cannot accept the position or stuff like that. There are times when people decline and say that they cannot accept the position because it would not be beneficial for them, especially if they had a previous job, to move from the previous job, even if they wanted a change in career path to come to that new job, or even if they wanted a change in environment, it would not be beneficial to them financially, so they would decline the offer.
Wonderful. All right, and if you're just tuning in, it's 11 minutes to 10 o'clock. We're about to wrap up. In conversation with me tonight is Hannah Lawrence, and we just wrapping up on our conversation on the job interview. And she's gonna. I'm scoring her, so I'll let you see what she's doing in a while. But I'm scoring her, and she's looking like she's climbing towards an A and a good A. You understand? But we're thankful. I'm kind of quite to learn a lot. So on the other side of just my little interaction with you, I will ask Hannah to share some closing thoughts as we do that. It's already 10 minutes to the hour of 10 o'clock. And if you're just tuning in, we come on with Get Empowered every Tuesday from 8 to 10, and it's a conversation. So we have a conversation with our guests, and thanks for those of you who are tuned in. Some of you send in questions. Some of you are just letting me know that you keep listening, and you like to listen. All right, so we appreciate you listening. So, Anna, as we wrap up here tonight, what would be your final comments, and what would you say? I see you smiling. You enjoyed tonight, right?
Yes, I did.
You enjoyed it? I feel, that quite a bit, good information went out. And you look so relaxed, like you're called for that. You know what I mean? You're like you're in your element, right in your office at Domlec, doing your work, the power to serve you better. And you served well. So, thank you so much. Yeah. Closing comments.
Okay, so closing comments for those who are in the lake on the file.
Those who are in the lake.
Those who feel like they are in the lake on the file. So, okay, so the file is not the end. Being on file is not the end. There are times when persons, the company, they consult the files when they need that talent and they're not able to get it out there, or so not just not able to get it out there, but they consult the file when they need the talent, and they would contact you to find out if you are employed at the moment, if you are still interested in being employed at the company. That is one form of encouragement. So don't think that because they tell you that okay, we have your application on file, that they just forget you. Most times
it's not like me that nanny tout qualité nanny passe sous well,
I can't speak for everywhere, but I've seen
even Domlec with the party serve you better.
They forget you too.
You call me.
But I've seen, based on my experience, I've seen that we go back to the file. And even not just at Domlec, but even as an individual growing up, I remember being called and said that I saw your application on file. Even from the government service, we have this here. Would you like to, or are you interested in? They would ask you, like something maybe temporary, short term, if you want to.
Wonderful.
I remember being called and asked that question. So, for those who sometimes feel, like you are forgotten because you are placed on the file or you are ignored, it's not always. That's not always the case. It's just that there are no vacancy at the moment, and you are being placed there. But I will always...
Do you recommend, sorry for bumping in, do you recommend sometimes maybe a follow-up call, a follow-up note, for those on file? Okay,
so I was just about to say that if you know that you have, especially when you have added qualifications and so forth to your CV, it's good to send an updated CV or an updated application letter. So don't just leave it up to the company alone. You too, you work in your own interest. So you would, let's say when you left high school you applied, but now you finish college, you just got your associate. So you could send an updated CV, send a cover note saying that okay, you have an application in here, you're still interested in a position or whatever, and you send your updated curriculum vitae.
Okay, but do you at HR do you reward persistency and somebody in that sense you feel that person is coming at you all maybe for the job? Is there something like that you recommend?
I don't want to say reward persistency. I would like to say that as long as the person if they suit the if their qualification, skills and so forth suit what we're asking for, then when we going through, then if it suits what we're asking for, then we would shortlist and have an interview. Remember, we don't it's not like preference. The person has to come in and prove themselves. You have to go through an interview. So it's not because you send in 10 letters of application, then okay, I tired of seeing that, I think he really needs a job, I'm just going to employ him. No, he has to go through the entire recruitment process.
But would you do I've sent in 10 because my interest is to work within that company. You said when you left you wanted to work either at Domlec or at the port. So you personally shortlisted where you'd want to work, all right? And thankfully it turned out that you are where you really wanted. So that's commendable. All right. I have now shortlisted where I want to, and I just feel the persistency. I want to persist and pursue that particular area. Would you, from an HR standpoint in that sense, look at that and say, boy, that person, let me maybe call them in? I'm just saying there's the humanitarian side of you or whatever. I guess maybe sometimes because HR is human resource, right? Development, and I guess you have a D in that, just human resource and that kind of thing. So you're dealing with that and you say, we may have something that is different, but let's see, because that person have applied, contact them to see if they would like to get it. Do you all take that initiative?
I don't want to mix up what you ask. It's not about persistency. It has nothing to do with persistency.
Okay.
It has for the first part of the question, it has nothing to do with persistency, so we'll not call the person because they are being persistent.
Okay.
Right. So what would happen if that question that you're asking, what I've seen happened, and I'm not talking about Domlec, I'm talking about generally.
Yeah.
What you would see happen is that if someone applied for a position and then you may have something a bit lower than what they're really looking for, but is almost in line with what they're asking, then you could reach out to them and ask if they're interested.
Okay. All right.
That.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
So you were asking for closing remarks,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, closing remarks.
Right. So we talk about the file, and we're saying that when you're on file, it's not just a dead letter.
Yeah.
It can be consulted, and you can always be called. You are also encouraged to send updated information whenever you update your qualifications or so forth. Also, for the young persons, like we say, we were trying to focus on persons who just left high school and are going to be applying for various or college, and they're going to be applying for various positions. We let them know that it's not exactly. Sometimes you don't always get what you want. But as long as you get employed, you see something that falls in line. Like for example, you probably like an entry level position. You can start at an entry level position. That's how you acquire experience and skills. So this would be helpful for you. Like when you go later on in life, when they ask for how many years of experience, like maybe administrative duties, even if you were not probably maybe an administrative secretary. So for example, you start at general clerk and then you go to administrative secretary. So if you were aspiring to be an administrative secretary, but yet you saw an opening for a general clerk, it would be wise to apply, because right there you would be able to acquire years of experience and skills. So later on in life, when you would really get that, you really see that vacancy for administrative secretary, you would have already it would have told you probably 2 years experience in maybe secretarial duties or so forth. You would have had that because you worked as a general clerk somewhere else. So that too is a form of encouragement for you. So you know that you can always start at an entry level, because it's not always what you really want that you always get. And try to do like courses, or try to anything that you can get, like, okay, so short-term employment, things like that. You can always try to, even if it's temporary, you could still apply and indicate your interest, because it helps along the way. It helps you to understand the whole dynamics of the workplace and help you to gain experience in the workplace.
Wonderful. Well said. One thing I found interesting that I sometimes say to persons, it may not be something you put on your resume, but something you can do in terms of your preparation is to, for some persons, just go get your driver's license.
True.
And have that there, because,
True.
I remember many years ago, I had a friend who had a great opportunity coming their way, very good opportunity. And part of that was just to have the driver's license. And she regretted and said, boy, I think 2 years or so ago, I really started and I wanted to go for it. And I just decided, well, no, I'm not going for it. And she could, knock herself over for losing the opportunity, because that was part of it. So, that I just encourage young persons, as part of, and where parents can assist, as part of giving them something in terms of their qualification, work on that too. That I think that's a good thing to have, decide, if you're looking for employment. Not just to get a vehicle, to buy a vehicle at the first opportunity, but to have it there, because you just never know.
Yes, that's true, because sometimes they ask for 2 years driving experience or something like that.
Yeah.
Also, while the young persons are on the quest of job hunting, but maybe haven't gotten something positive, it's also wise to take advantage of any form of training that they could get in the meantime. For example, Youth Development Division government offers training in certain, like, electricals, computer, try to find hairdressing, try to find something during that time. So never stop learning, then try to always get involved in different things that would help you to build your CV. You will be surprised how far this would bring you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Hannah,
You're most welcome.
for being my guest tonight and being with us here on Get Empowered. And I guess you could now tell your brother, your sister, they will. You have to say anything to them again? Nah, just teasing.
And Mrs. Bertrand, who said to call her name, so I mentioned her name now.
All right, so you could.
Mrs. Bertrand, I mentioned your name.
You could big up whoever you have now and that kind of stuff. And I was having some of my family members were listening, and they were giving me some kicks about the picture. This one that is there, and they find I looking like somebody else. So we just had a laugh about that. That kind of thing. All right, so we just, I am me, and they're. So thanks again, Hannah, and we'll look forward to doing that, because I know you have just interest in being part of that. So I look forward to you coming again at some time.
All right.
All right.
So my support system, I want to say thank you. My children that are listening, thank you, and good night, everyone.
All right, wonderful. So you see, she's at home, and we're on all of these platforms. So thank you so much. Let me just shut down. So those of you who tuned in on Facebook, on YouTube, and on TV, I'm signing off. And thanks for the pleasure of just being, in the company, or you being in my company, in your company. You could have choose something else. You could have been somewhere else. And let me make you see me once I say that to you. And, you could have been somewhere else. You could have done something else. No, I don't want you to see us. I want you to see me. I want you to see just me. Let me leave the young lady alone. All right? Let me let the lady alone. All right, she's there. Let me even bring her mic down so she can laugh and thing, and you're there in the background. But it's me. All right, so I just want to say thanks to all of you for choosing DBS. You could have done something else. There's World Cup football. You could have done that. There's the NBA draft. You could have checked that out. And there are other things you could have checked out and gone after, but you choose to connect with Get Empowered. And some of you do that regularly, faithfully. All right, like Marie Etienne, and I saw Yumi Grace and stuff like that. And those of you who choose to connect on YouTube, on Facebook, and dropped in a comment. So thank you so much. And to Tammy, to Beverly, my sister, Tammy, my niece, and Nathaniel, my nephew, and all of the others, nieces and nephews and brothers and sisters and wife that tuned in. God bless you. Julie, Louise in Granby, and all of my folks in South City, Granby, Teresa, James, and Zotutna, yeah, Zotut, all right? Have a good one. So we're signing off, and until next Tuesday. Wonderful. Good, so let me just do this. Yeah, so nice. Let me just do a couple of things.
Living in the positive.
Here is an invitation to get empowered on DBS Radio every Tuesday evening from 8 to 10. It is a program designed to lift you, helping you to be better, not bitter, helping you to live in the positive, inspiring, uplifting, and impactful. Get Empowered covers topics and real-life situations that are often not discussed. Get Empowered will seek to help you find a reason